Hi, everyone. Okay, so I am super excited for the latest segment today of Visions, which is the segment on WabiSabi TV, focused on community builders, people who are envisioning the world they want to live in and sharing that view with us. So feel free to check us out on Bella Vista Facebook and on the WabiSabi YouTube channel. This will be live cast right now there, and then also posted there for you to check out. So with me today, I have a really fun guest. I've been holding off on the Uber San Diego story, but I'm really excited to have Matt Delveccio with us today, the founder of Duckfoot Brewing, talking about, yes, talking about what we all really care about, which is San Diego beer and surf culture. So Matt's going to share with us a little bit about how he got started and how that grew. But first, Matt, I'm loving this view behind you in the talking about it nonstop, and you just pull up your car. So that's quite the album collection and drum kit. And what else do you have back there?
I mean, this is like my home office, and it's my music studio, and I actually can get a lot of work done here today. But got the guitar and the records.
How many records do you have? Is that all?
A couple thousand. It's an addiction.
That's amazing. I was so glad to see that Lou's Records open back up again.
Yes. Talk about a community build right there.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on today.
Of course. Okay, so for those of you who don't know Matt or Duckfoot Brewing, be sure to check them out. They have a great tasting room, and that's in Miramar.
It's in Miramar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, the brewery was actually started right here where I'm sitting.
You're kidding.
And so it didn't always look this nice. Where the records are was actually all brewing equipment at one point.
How far you've come.
Yeah, I know. I was very excited to when we actually built out the brewery, move all the beer equipment out of the garage, and then take my space back.
I'm sure your wife was also very excited to see that.
Very excited,
yeah. Okay, so then tell me, is that how you got started? Are you actually that quintessential microbrew that you started it in your garage?
Yeah, it started in the idea started in like 2001 or 2002 or something like.
Okay.
And then at first I was homebrewing in my New York City apartment. And
what got you started homebrewing?
I mean, homebrew. When my wife and I got married, one of my groomsmen gave me a homebrewing kit, and that's where it all began. And
you're kidding.
Yeah,
that was the origin, was a wedding present.
Yeah.
You launched quite a new life in that moment with the wife and the beer.
And my buddy Brian was like, "Wait, you know, like, do you think this is going to be cool?" And I was like, "Yeah, Katie will love it." Well, I mean, how many candlestick holders do you really need?
Right.
So those are all sitting, on a shelf somewhere that never gets used. And the homebrewing kit has turned into, we'll say, a lifestyle.
I'll say I got a ricotta cheese making kit.
Oh, nice.
As a wedding gift. I did not become a cheesemonger. So how did you go from wedding present to this? Like, was it a passion that you always had? Like, were you always kind of doing your own like moonshine or making liquor? Was this a totally venture?
It was not. I'd never brewed before. I was working in financial services, and I think I was looking for a creative outlet that, like, I could that maybe could turn into something. My uncle was in the coffee business.
Okay.
And
a little bit about food and beverage.
Yeah. So I remember seeing, he imported coffee and manufactured it and packaged it and sent it out. And and so I watched him grow his business from being a little kid to being an adult. And I always just loved going over to his house, and you would go into his house, and he would like have a coffee mug, with his company on it, and like that was like so cool to me. And with financial services, I really loved working with people, but I missed the creativity about like designing a product and bringing it to market. I like that was like something that really excited me. So when I got the home brewing kit and we started making beer, the beer was terrible. I mean, it was not good at all. But I really loved it just got my creative juices flowing, and I started coming to the brewery and designing packaging and then that's that's kind of where it started. But fast forward, now we have like really qualified people making the beer and beer's coming out terrific.
Yeah, I don't want to yada 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 that part. Like, I know that this isn't just about building a business, but for you, your business really is also your community, right? Like they're intrinsically tied together, and not just with the San Diego brewing scene, which is really this super tight lattice work of brewers like you, right? Like a lot of people who started in their garages, started as passion projects, and then grew it into an industry. But you've also tied in your business with like your sports and your lifestyle. So like, I don't want to yada 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 from 2002 now. Like, let's talk about that. Let's unpack that. So
you know what? I should change that. I think it was 2008, not 2002, but still a while ago. When I was home brewing, and then the curveball I was thrown was that I was putting together. I'd gotten pretty serious about putting a brewery together, and then I got really sick, and I was diagnosed with celiac disease.
Okay.
And then that I thought pretty much was going to end my path for opening up a craft brewery, because beer is filled with gluten. And then my wife my wife Katie kind of slapped me around and said, get off your ass and why don't you create a good gluten-free beer? And so I thought, all right, we'll see, so we went to market, and we went out to the market to see what was out there, and there really weren't a lot of good options.
So were you already brewing and selling beer at this time?
No, it was just a business plan at this point.
Okay, but it had moved to business plan. And any of your desire to like move into this, was that in any way influenced by the 2008 crash?
No.
Interesting.
No, that had nothing. No, that had nothing to do with. That was its own beast. That was an interesting thing to be in financial services for.
Yeah, that's my thought, right? I know a lot of people who were in financial services who went into these other industries, right? Started really chasing their passions because they got so burnt out, right? Or they got pushed out after 2008, and that actually helped to drive a lot of new business. But for you, it was.
No, yeah, I was still in financial services until 2013.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe like 2014. So I kept that business going while I was putting the business plan together. So yeah. And so but I probably would have been able to get it off. Had I not been diagnosed with celiac disease, I would have started the brewery a lot quicker. I lost a couple of years once I was diagnosed with celiac disease, because first it like just stopped me in my tracks, and then and then it took me a little bit to try to figure out how to create the product. And then
was that really disheartening for you? Like, you'd been working on this business plan, and then you get diagnosed with celiac.
I was so bummed. I mean, it was just, you know, I like beer, and I was heavily involved in the home brewing community in New York, and I was trading beers. I mean, this is going to be maybe a little bit geeky, but I mean, there's a whole group of like home brewers that buy beers and send them and trade them all over the country with each other and stuff. And so I was part of that.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is it's like your hobby is now this really successful business, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because of the community that continued to support you in growing that interest, right?
Yeah, and the what's interesting is I talk about us having this gluten-free niche, and that certainly when we did open in 2015. And by the way, this month is our 5-year anniversary for Duckfoot, so it's
Congratulations!
yeah.
That's huge.
And so I think it's a great milestone, like 5 years, and we've done a lot in that 5 years. But going back to like when we first opened in 2015, the gluten-free thing was all anybody wanted to talk about, and I really wanted to be known for just being great at making good craft beer. And I didn't want to get pigeonholed, but it's all anybody wrote about at the time. It was like Duckfoot opens the first gluten-free brewery and in San Diego, and so it got us a lot of press, and it helped springboard us into a lot of accounts because I don't want to say it's trendy, but people are healthy.
No, there's a lot of people who are gluten-free.
Good all.
A differentiator. Yeah.
It is, yeah. And so we were the 100th brewery to open in San Diego. And,
really?
Yeah. And so that was a differentiator, like you said. I mean, the perfect, and so that that really helped springboard us to getting a lot of accounts right off the bat, and yeah, so.
Okay, so you had been part of this. You did your first batch of beer. It was terrible,
Yeah.
but you loved the process and the way I'm sure it made your house smell while you were brewing it. And so, but I love this, how it turned into a bigger hobby, and brought you together with a bunch of other people who you were then connecting with and sharing beers with. Was that part of why you wanted to start it as a business, or was it feedback from them that you were like, I could actually do this? Like, at what point were you like, this is going from me making beer, loving it, trading it with people, right, to I think that I could make this a viable life option for me and my family?
All my friends and family were very supportive at the beginning, and this was when I was brewing in New York. And even though I'll say I'm looking back at it, like I don't think the beers were that great, but they were all really into it, and I think they really liked the idea of a friend opening up a microbrewery in town, and so they were all bummed when I moved to San Diego to do it.
Now, did you move to San Diego specifically for the microbrew scene?
Yeah, and that and the lifestyle. Katie and I moved to San Diego. We were disheartened by the severe winters that we were getting in New York, and
I live in New York. I hear that.
And so I remember just like the final straw was like, it snowed out in like November, and then we didn't see the ground again until like April or May. And I remember just like being out there and shoveling my car out from like the 20th snowstorm and just being like, I can't deal with this anymore. So
I get that. For
yeah,
sure.
we had some friends that lived up in Napa, and they were like, oh, you should check out Southern California. They were like, there's this town called Encinitas that we think you guys would be a perfect fit for.
You're kidding.
No, and we were like, Encinitas, where's that? I've never even heard of, I've never been to San Diego, never even heard of Encinitas.
Did you surf at all at this time?
I did. I surfed in New York. I was like, had my surfboards in my apartment in New York City, and would,
Beach. I always surfed Rockaways.
Yeah. So we would surf Rockaway and Long Beach and then go out to Montauk and surf Montauk. And so, and it's wonderful surfing and it's great. It's just harsh, And so we came out to
surfing is always intense, but kind of worth it if you have the right wetsuit.
Yeah, 5 mil wetsuit with the lobster gloves and the 5 mil booties, and you're all I mean, I remember digging myself out of a snowstorm, putting my surfboard on my roof rack and driving out to the Rockaways.
Yep.
And trudging through a 1.5 foot of snow to paddle out, and that's a tough experience.
But I mean, it might be the only time all year that you're going to get waves that are like shoulder high. So you got to do it.
Yeah. So I don't totally miss that though.
Okay. So you moved to Encinitas intentionally, like full intentionality for the microbrew scene and the lifestyle.
We fell in love with it. We took our friends up on that. We flew out for a weekend and spent a weekend in a hotel here in Encinitas, and I don't think it took more than 12 hours for us to just fall in love. And so we came out, and so I wanted to be able to surf on a regular basis, and I wanted to. I fell in love with the brewing scene out here. I mean, we went and we saw Stone Brewing in Escondido, and I was like, wow, this community out here really loves brewing. And
well, in Greg's spot, I mean, when you talk about intentionality, right? Like every rock and plant was hand selected by that team.
I know it was such a beautiful spot, so we moved out. Like I think it took us like a month. We just like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. We made the decision, like packed everything up, and then we were out here, and then that's when I met my business partners, probably that first month, and then we did, and then we.
How did you meet your business partners?
We didn't know anybody. We moved out here without any friends or any, and our the couple that told us about Encinitas had her roommate from college lived here in town.
Okay.
And the only referral we knew, so we called her when we got here, and she was away, but she said, "Hey, my husband's going sailing in Mission Bay. Do you want to join?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure, of course." So
as San Diego as it could get.
Yeah. So we went down there, and we were out on the sailboat, and he said, "Well, what brings you to San Diego?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to start a brewing company." And he said, "Well, I actually have a friend that's also working on starting a brewing company. Maybe I can introduce you guys, and you guys can meet." So that's what he did. And then that next week I went and had a beer with my now business partner Brett, and and then it took us about a year to well, I forgot the timeline, but I mean, it was probably like 2014 we met, and then we ended up moving all the equipment into the garage and R&D. And he'd been home brewing for 20 years and was a certified beer judge. And and so he wasn't really into the whole gluten-free thing, because he thought that there was going to be a lack of quality, or quality was going to suffer. And then so we R&D'd a bunch of prototypes, and we came out with what we think is a beer that doesn't have any defects from it being gluten-free. And then that led to the next phase of looking for real estate and putting together like a real solid business plan with equipment and sizing the equipment and all that.
No, then you built out an actual business model.
Yeah.
And put that together. Again, though, that the casualness of how this came together for you through your network, right? Like the motivation and the vision for it coming from your friends, the confidence, and maybe even some of the compulsion for it, right? Coming from the community that you formed with the beer. And again, maybe some pressure from friends who wouldn't mind their buddy having an awesome bar with. I get that.
Yeah.
But just like that confluence of what happens when you're in a community of people who understand you and have same values, right? And how you can intrinsically trust what they say, right? Like these friends from Napa who were like, go to Encinitas, talk to my friend. And this idea of what that credibility of your community can do in just making you open to those connections, right? Like people you'd never met before, and you're sailing on their boat and he has someone you should talk to, and now that person's your business partner, right? Like that level of trust that we have with people in our community, I think sometimes facilitates some of this like manifestation, whatever you want to call it, magical connections. I don't know, like
you have to be
naturally that open and trusting. Like you don't seem like an impulsive, whimsical guy, and yet a lot of this story has a sense of like you have a desire for something, but you're not, it's not like you have this strategic plan of I'm going to go here and I'm going to meet this person, I'm going to do this, and these are my top 5, and then from them I willed it down to, you know, like it has less of the formal structure that you're
that's that to me, that approach didn't work out very well. Like the more structure I tried to put on it, the more it kept blowing up on me. And I feel that I don't know, this is maybe out there or not, but you know, I felt like this path was already written for me, and my job was to be open to what the universe was guiding me for. And so I feel like
felt that.
What
like when did you start feeling that?
Oh, it happened without. Well, part of it is a lot of manifestation, right? And so I think that is a huge component, right? Is the manifestation and having a mantra and setting a vision board. And so I had all of that stuff in my office in New York City. Like I had a vision board with pictures of fermenters and all of those things. And then so
you had a clear vision of what you wanted.
Yeah.
A lot of the structure, right?
But I mean, every time I would put, I would be so rigid and have stuff in Excel, right? And like, here's what I'm gonna do. It just never worked out, right? But as soon as I started following like the actual experiences of doing it, like coming out here and then being introduced to Brett and then there was a lot of, over that course of that 2 years, all of that just kind of unfolded naturally. And the harder I would try to stick to a business plan, the more it would break apart. And then what always seemed to work was stuff I didn't plan just naturally happened. Like that led me to where I am. So now I'm at the point where if I'm trying so hard to get something done, I just realize it's not meant to be, and that I've got to like loosen up and just like listen, and then kind of redirect, and then I seem it just seems to continually be the right path. I don't know.
A lot of humility in that, though. Does it feel that way? Like there's a lot of like the humbling of the ego, like let go of your vision, let go of the structure. I mean, I imagine, like, especially for someone who's coming from financial services, right?
Yeah.
Which is very directive, highly regulated. And you have to look at that hard ROI. You have to say what you're going to do it, and then prove that you did it.
Right.
Was that like, has that been hard for you, or do you think that naturally you have always been that way?
So we haven't talked about this, but I have a degree in sculpture from Maryland Institute College of Art, and so I studied Japanese ceramics, and there's a technique called WabiSabi,
Yes.
and if you're familiar with it, I
live by WabiSabi.
Right. So basically it's the celebration of the unexpected, and what happens, you celebrate that, and you can't control it, right? So I kind of have that training, and so I've viewed this whole experience with a WabiSabi filter. And
well, isn't part of the WabiSabi mantra not just the unexpected and the uncontrollable, but also the like broken, damaged, organic?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the things being in a little bit of chaos and a little bit of mess, right? Like it's like you have the Finnish Hedgy, right? Which is things that look lived in, not messy, but like lived in. And then you have WabiSabi, which is like things that are also lived in and dying.
Yeah. So I think you're right, and then so I've tried to just use that philosophy to get me through, and it's and time again it's proved like the right path. So
well, and you've always had a physical creative outlet, right? Like sculpting is very physical. There's even other studio arts like painting or sketching or photography, you're dealing with a two-dimensional representation of a thing. Whereas a sculpture might be representative, but it's a thing itself, right? It exists in 3 dimensions. It has a weight and a texture. You can experience it tactically. I can't help but feel like, do you feel like sometimes your brewing is a creative outlet for you?
Yeah, that was very much that was my mantra for Duckfoot, is that it's a creative platform, and it doesn't matter like whether it's the beer we're making or it's the packaging or it's the event we're throwing. It's always got art in its like main focus. Art, fun. We try to always bring in whether it's musicians or visual artists, or the brewers are, I consider the brewing team to be artists as well, and so that's a big community of ours, right? And it's been a lot of fun, and building out the brewery was that was a terrific experience, because
let's talk about that. So you kind of move into this, you wabi-sabied, manifested, vision boarded your way into forming Duckfoot. A lot of us know Duckfoot in the community because you do a lot of collabs. I feel like at every event I want to be at, you're there. The Bella Vista has a great relationship with you, right? Matt and I were laughing when I asked him to be on the show, and he wanted to know, okay, well, what is this? And I told him it was the Bella Vista. We both had a good laugh because he's done a lot of the events there. He knows Amanda super well, who is a phenomenal community builder, right?
Oh, she's amazing. Yeah.
So I mean, that's one thing that I think distinguishes Duckfoot is you guys are super out there in the community, right? Like, tell me about that, and the space even that you have is designed for specifically events, right? I can't help but see like a lot of other breweries have taken a cue from that.
Hopefully we've rubbed off on some people, and other people have provided good creativity that we've borrowed from as well. And we certainly didn't invent anything. It's just manipulated certain things. But building out Duckfoot in Miramar, we had just this amazing team of artists. I mean, my best friend is our like one of our head creatives, and he has a design firm in Brooklyn. And so we were sending him photography of the space, and he was designing murals. And then we had this amazing interior designer that we worked with locally, and then we had this great company that has an office up in Oceanside that helped us kind of like find the artisans and that knew how to make the steel workers. And I mean, we had this. I wish we could like put up some like visuals, right, of the brewery as I'm talking about it. But the team that came together was probably like 20 artists. We had graffiti artists from LA come down to actually paint.
That's amazing.
Design, and he wasn't going to fly out to do it. Yeah, so we like quarterbacked all of these amazing artists to come together and build out the space, and it came out terrific. I mean, it's such a cool space. And then and to this day, we've done artist in residency programs, and then prior to the COVID thing, we were building and nurturing a really beautiful live music scene there. And so I'm but one of the things I'm most sad about is just the loss of us being able to be together and be listening to live music. I've been enjoying the streaming thing a lot, but I can't wait till we can get back to building or continue growing that community too.
Well, and you clearly have a passion for music, right?
Music is a huge part of my life. So yeah.
So how much of that was intentional, right? When you were looking at bringing people in, were you specifically saying that you wanted to bring in these community collaborators and have it be a space that you're showcasing local art and skill, or did that happen organically?
No, it was always it made it to the top of my priority list, was that I wanted the Duckfoot to be a platform, for art and creativity. And so we've just always tried to abide by that. And that came a lot, I think, out of art school, where you're questioning what art really is, and
right.
And so, I think by the time I graduated, it was like art can be anything you want it to be, If you can throw a toilet on a pedestal and put it in a gallery, or fill a room full of a bunch of dirt, like there's whatever you're creating is, can be considered art. And so we've gone forward with a philosophy of, let's create, let's push ourselves, whether it be with a beer recipe or the packaging or the art on the packaging. And it never gets old. We're always pushing ourselves and having a good time.
Well, and it seems like too, with that creativity, you're attracting the people that you want to be a part of what you're building.
Yeah.
Right? Like both as your customers and then as your collaborators, right? So as you've been growing in the San Diego community, so you were a little bit of a San Diego brewery transplant, right? Like you moved here specifically for that. Did you feel like it was hard to get tapped into the San Diego microbrew scene? Was it opening and welcoming, or was it competitive? You said you were the 100th one, so
it wasn't competitive when we opened. At least I don't think so. When we signed our lease, and it took us about 8 months to build out the space. Mm-hmm. So somewhere in like 2014, we signed, maybe the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, we signed our lease for our brewery in Miramar.
Yeah.
There were only maybe 60 breweries when we signed our lease. And then, so by the time we opened 8 months later, like an additional 40 or 50 had opened up. Right? So that's crazy. And then, so I think that the market was very excited at that point about how many breweries were opening, and everybody seemed to be wanting to collaborate, and it didn't manifest, at least in my opinion, it didn't manifest as competitive at that point. And then I think it's certainly a lot more competitive now, with there's like 200 or so operating, and so in the last 5 years a whole nother 100 opened up. So I think that pace has slowed down. I don't think people are opening breweries at the clip that it was in 2015, which is good. I mean, there's only so many tap handles and shelf space out there, but the thing I want to point out was starting, creating that platform for us, and for art to happen, has made the best introductions for us. So we always wanted to be in, the name Duckfoot stands for the stance for my snowboard bindings. Originally, the brand was going to be a brand marketed towards the snowboarding community. And it's a little harder in San Diego because, we don't have mountains right here, but I like the name enough.
There's snowboards, but that's not the primary sport we do. We do that when surf is bad.
But I always wanted to be able to have the brand kind of linked up with the snowboarding and the surfing industry and the skateboarding industry, because those outside of music are my other passions. And because I think we created this packaging and this brand that was so unique, it developed into our first collaboration with a really famous local surf artist whose name is, and Andy specifically. I was introduced to Andy, and Andy loved our brand so much and what we did with it that he wanted to collaborate with us. And I mean, we wanted to collaborate with him, and but because he liked our art. What'd you say?
Oh yeah, no, he responded to what you were doing, and it was something he was eager about too. That's rad. That kind of validation, right? Again,
totally
that manifesting.
So that platform is kind of built on itself. So the Andy Davis collaboration, which we've done a bunch of beers with him, with his art on our beers, that's been hugely popular. Mm-hmm. And then it actually then springboarded us to do a beer with a local skateboarding group of guys. We have this group of skaters. They're called the Old Bros, and they're our San Diego's Dogtown guys. Right. And so they don't have a movie about them, but they should. And a lot of them, they're in their late 50s, early 60s, still skating and shredding hard. And so we've done a collaboration with them, and celebrating the skating history of San Diego. And then and then that led to us doing a collaboration with Kook Slams, which is a very well-known Instagram feed here in Southern California. And they really loved the collaborations that we had done with Andy Davis and the Old Bros, and so we've done that collaboration, and then that collaboration has led to a collaboration we just did with Bing Surfboards, and so it's just exceeded my wildest expectations of.
Look at how delighted you are.
Yeah, it's so fun. I mean, and so it brings everything together, full circle, where we we make this really fun liquid that people like to enjoy. And then, we tie it to these other really great passions that people have, like, surfing and, surf art or surf culture and skate
Well, this
culture.
is some of your passion too, right? Like you have is it a half pipe or a ramp in your backyard?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Yeah. So we built, it was my 40th birthday present from my wife. So yeah, I'm out there. I picked up skate. I was skating when I was a little kid, but I kind of stopped for a bunch of years, and then I picked it up again when I was like 37 or 38. So um, it's it's been that's been humbling.
Yeah, well, we had another actually, and you know the Callie Kelsey with Skate Rise.
Yes.
Yeah, so she was actually the first guest on the show.
Oh, okay.
She said something that I think actually really applies with what you're doing, right? And she talked about like like that moment when you're dropping in to a bowl, right? Like that moment when you're facing your fear, when you're like focused and letting go, but how important it is to have people around you who have been through that, who understand the fear that you're facing. And it's like they can't drop in with you, right? Like you still have to do that work yourself. But having that community of people who understand what you're doing, who know what it's like to fall, and who are there to help you try again, right?
Yeah.
And that there's something really like empathy building actually about skateboarding, which
That's
is
the
surprising, like you picture it to be the other way, but how there's like an inherent kindness both to yourself and to others that comes from having to have done hard things and being willing to do a hard thing again.
There is nothing scarier than dropping in for the first time. And it is funny that you bring up Callie, because I was there at the skate park when she was actually learning to drop in. And so I witnessed her dropping in for her first time, and we had this whole cheering section for her. She's so terrific.
About that in the show. That was really impactful for her.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you talk, right? Like I hear your cheering section, right?
Yeah.
Like I hear you talking about how you're like not only facing that fear, but also like finding that moment of letting go and just like letting that momentum take you forward, which is hard for anyone to do. But somehow easier when there's people around you supporting you or that you see doing it.
Every year we throw a really terrific anniversary, and all of those people that like community that are there to support us come out, and we have this huge party, and that is what it like it recenters us, and it's like that cheerleading team, like all of those fans, like we can make the beer, but if we don't have a community to like share it with, then we're just sitting in the brewery by ourselves with way too much beer to drink. And so all of those people, when they come out once, well, they come out all year long, but they, this one big party we usually have is just, it's like that centering time of year where we all come together and celebrate. And it's, it's not about, Duckfoot. It's about like throwing a really terrific party for them, and it's that, it's like, we throw the party for our cheerleading team, which, and yeah, it's great. And, sometimes we fall on our face, sometimes we make beers that aren't that great, but we brew so many of them all year that you can't make every beer is not going to be a winner, and you have to take chances. And sometimes we end up with, too much of one ingredient and whatever, but we just keep at it and keep learning and celebrating and building our community online and working. I mean, talking with them, versus at them. That's been a
key difference.
Yeah.
Well, and that's always a little scary because you're allowing them to say anything they might say to you, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not controlling that conversation. You're letting it shape itself.
Yeah, like too much coffee in that beer, or not enough coffee.
Yeah. Okay, so what's next for Duckfoot, right? So for a product that is designed for social, right? Like beer comes in a 6-pack because it's meant to be shared. And it's the quintessential product for when you want to be getting together with friends and people, right? Like the brewery that you designed is designed for people and events and coming together. What does that look like for you guys, and how are you adjusting right now?
It's been so challenging because rules are changing by the week, right?
Right.
So we just opened back up this past weekend.
Wow, congratulations. First weekend
So,
back open.
yeah. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we served a ton of customers, and people drove down from LA and Orange
Of
County,
course.
and our capacity is half, but we actually just got granted um, a permit to put an outdoor patio outside the brewery. So
Wow.
we're going to have seven picnic tables out there, which will probably bring us back to pretty close to what our capacity is.
Wow.
So I'm really, really stoked on that. Plus, we've always wanted a patio, and because in front of our brewery is this beautiful grassy landscaped area that is just totally inviting, like for like people to just come out there and hang out and have some beers out there, so when we're done today, I'm going to drive down there and build some picnic tables.
I don't think you're building them.
Yeah.
Matt, still super hands-on with everything he's doing there.
So yeah, it was really fun to serve people this weekend. Like, so I managed on Sunday and Monday, and just to see these, our community coming in the door, and after what we've all been through, and and so to see everybody, and it just felt like, I tell you what, it felt safe, honestly. Like in this way, like I don't think that with I should say, I think with the reduced capacity, our sanitation procedures, and where everybody's like on the brewing, or say the Duckfoot employees, we're all wearing masks and we're sanitizing everything,
Right.
and like I don't think we could be doing anything better. You know what I mean? Like, I felt really good about our procedures, and our community that was coming in was very respectful of the rules, and
That's awesome.
and so I came away from the 2 days like really stoked about the way things were, and I was like, okay, if this is the way it's going to be for the next year till there's a vaccine or just treatments, then I think we can make a go at it, and we should be able to keep the company safe, and our employees safe, and our fans that are coming in safe.
So did anything?
So that's where we're at.
Well, and that's amazing. Like I feel really honored that we get to talk to you about what that looks like after you've had that experience, right? Like if we had talked last week, it might have been a really different conversation with you not knowing what was going to happen or what that would look like.
Yeah. So after we get that that outdoor space kind of situated, then our next focus will be trying to figure out how to open our restaurant back up, which is downtown by the baseball stadium. So that's probably been impacted the most because the place is small, and so based upon our square footage, we can only get like 4 or 5 tabletops in there, and so anybody that knows the restaurant business, you can't run a business with 5 tabletops,
Well, certainly not in downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
Maybe
so
locales, but not
yeah. so we'll try to figure out what we do with that, but that's an important part of our DNA, like the Duckfoot DNA, because it's actually a gluten-free restaurant. And so it's a tasting room that has all Duckfoot beers, but it's actually like one of the only 100% gluten-free restaurants in San Diego. So, it's the first restaurant that, we've ever owned and run, and we've put a lot of sweat equity into it, and we're really proud of it. It's a little bit dependent upon, that area is like a little bit dependent upon baseball season, tourism. So there are a lot of challenges, we'll call it, that are not going in our favor right now. So we've got to kind of probably address the business model itself, and to figure out how we're going to, make a go at it until we can come out on the other side of this. But we, we'll figure it out. We can only do, with how fast things are changing, and
can only respond as well as you have information.
Yeah, and we can only tackle so many problems at once or whatever. But we did get a lot of really positive news yesterday from our distributors. So prior to the whole COVID thing, we had this just really wonderful momentum going, and we had some really big wins, and that kind of got put on pause, that I found out yesterday, that are all actually picking up where they left off. So we ended up being selected to bring our beer into SeaWorld, and so they're opening back up, and so they reached out to our distributor to start ordering, and the San Diego Zoo is also has Duckfoot. I think we're a perfect match for the San Diego Zoo
totally both the name, the brand,
and so they brought our beer in too, and they've been ordering, and so they're these are some really nice wins for us, and so to hear that that stuff was on pause, and then now picking back up as the world is reopening, so we're pretty excited about it.
Well, and what's nice about those, right, bringing it back to the community story, is that both SeaWorld and the San Diego Zoo have been, as companies, trying to showcase and honor the community that supports them, right? So the San Diego Zoo has been for quite a while showcasing the microbrews. So it's awesome that you get to be part of that story that they tell there. And SeaWorld obviously has the whole Anheuser-Busch relationship, but they've been really focusing on how to highlight the community that they're in, and that so that's really awesome that you're woven in so tightly with that San Diego story now.
Those are some really stop and smell the roses kind of moments.
Really?
For me, last year we ended up we got brought into the Padres Petco Park, so so you could buy Duckfoot company beer at a Major League Baseball game, and that to me was I think I sent you that photo of me holding the beer. And and we were our beer was supposed to be on served there again this year, but baseball season's not going to happen, so so I mean, I just love it. It's just so fun to create these things, and it's got its own momentum now, it originally was just an idea in my head, but now it's its own thing, but I'm not saying I could walk away or anything like that.
But it's interesting how it's become a life of its own, right? It went from something that you were trying to cultivate and grow to something that is now driving you in your decisions, right? It has. its own momentum.
So I like it's a fun experience to go, drink a beer that you created in these places that just seem so impossible to try to fathom, like how to get your beer in there. Like if you'd asked me like 10 years ago, hey, are you going to have a beer that, someday you can drink in a Major League Baseball stadium? Like, I would have been like, yeah, right. And maybe I shouldn't be that way. Maybe I should think, yeah, we're going to be in every stadium across the country. But I think there's, I think I'm maybe too humble to think that big or whatever. But
Well, and it goes back to like, what was the intention of what you were doing, which for you was really, it seems like, about creating a drink and a place that you guys could all come together with, right? Something that you would want to share with all the other brewers, and something that like you and your friends, and like, I love what you were saying about how it's a platform for creatives, right? Like it's that platform for creative expression.
I think that's a good point, and that's where I'm happiest, right? Is under normal circumstances, like on a Friday night, like being at the brewery, drinking my beer with my favorite food truck, and then my band playing to our crowd, and like that's like
That's Matt's heaven. All the
yeah, it really is, like, yeah. So we had a wonderful band. We got our music license at the beginning of last year, and so we could like finally have live music. And the first band that we ever had was like all of my musician friends coming together, and they killed it. And we just and I got up and played a couple of songs, and I remember just thinking to myself, wow, I can't believe this is happening. Like all my friends are here. We have, I'm playing in a band, everybody's drinking beer we created. Like it's pretty fun. So
I mean, like there's nothing more collaborative, right?
Yeah.
The epitome of collaboration is a band.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So like what a capstone for you to be able to bring all of those pieces together in one moment. So
Yeah, it was a lot of work to create a stage for myself.
but sometimes it's exactly what our communities are about, right? We create a platform for our own expression. But what I see with what you've done, and where I think I'd like to kind of end this, is that your passion for that creativity and your passion for the people in your life, right, has given a platform for a lot of people to join in and tell their stories. And I really love and admire and get to personally enjoy the way that you've built it out to be that way, right? The way that Duckfoot successfully tells the San Diego Brewers story, right?
Thank you.
And how San Diego went from a bunch of people in their garage to a lot of legitimate businesses and a huge industry, right? And San Diego's first $1 billion startup.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That was huge. And how also you're bringing together stories that don't often get to be told to the people that don't often get to hear them, right? Anything from the old bros to the artists to the iron workers, and how really you're not just creating a community, but it seems like you're highlighting the community that you decided to settle in. So we're lucky to have you here, and I hope that you continue to grow and expand. I can't wait to see this patio.
Well, thank you so much for taking an interest in us and helping tell our story, and get the word out. And it's always fun to talk with you. So
You too, Matt. Okay, so if people want to see you, where should they go? What should they do? How should they find you?
So we are on the World Wide Web at duckfootbeer.com.
Okay.
And our handle on social media is at duckfootbeer. And if you want to come check us out at the brewery, we're in Miramar, or also known as Beermar. We're right behind that design pyramid thing.
Yep.
And then and then you can find us at, we have a beer finder on our website that we keep pretty updated. So if you want to find our beer at restaurants or bars, grocery stores, you can go on to our website and figure out where you can enjoy us out in the world. And then lastly, we're delivering beer in San Diego. So because of the whole COVID thing, we're actually delivering beer to people's doors.
Wow.
And so you can actually order on our online store, which is also, there's a link from our website. You can have beer delivered to your door, and then we're also shipping statewide in California also. So
fantastic. Okay, lots of good ways to get involved. Definitely check them out at their location if you feel comfortable and able. And if not, find them in your local store online. Duckfoot, be a part of the movement, part of the community. I'm sure you'll see them out and about. Matt, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And
thank you very much.